Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our online church service. My name is Andrew, and I'm part of the congregation in Downham.
My name is EJ Wilmshurst, and it's really great to be able to meet together this morning. A special welcome to all of you. If it's your first time here, we're hoping that it'll be such a great blessing. We're going to have a time of praise and worship of King Jesus. We're going to listen to the word of God. And I just want to encourage everyone as you're at home with Psalm 96. God says, "Sing a new song to the Lord. Let the whole earth sing to the Lord. Sing to the Lord and praise his name. Each day proclaim the good news that he saves. Tell his glorious deeds among all the nations. Tell everyone about the amazing things he does. Great is the Lord. He is most worthy of praise. He is to be feared above all gods."
Amen.
Hey, good morning, Hope Church. It's great to be able to say hello to you this morning. My name's Simon Turner. I lead New Life Church in Biggin Hill, which is also part of Bromley. I've been so encouraged to hear of what you guys have been involved in across the borough of Bromley, serving those who are in need and just generally being the people of God to our communities. It's so brilliant. Well done. With the news this last week where we're to expect the biggest recession any of us have known, it can be one of those times in our lives where we start to panic and start to worry. And I personally found real encouragement from the book of Habakkuk, believe it or not, which is just one of the minor prophet books, just 3 chapters in the Old Testament. And the book is basically Habakkuk is convinced in his innermost man that God is good, yet he has this kind of argument, this back and forth with God about God's goodness and wanting to see God show his power and to stop all the evil that's happening. And he lands his book, he lands his dialogue with God on just this few verses from 17 to 19. And he says this, he says, "Though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive fail and the fields yield no fruit, the flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls." Habakkuk's describing a recession. He's saying, look, there's no food on the shelves. There's no shops that are open. There's nothing able for us to be able to go to. He then comes to verse 18. "Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God the Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the deer's. He makes me tread on high places." And the thing about deers is it doesn't matter what kind of terrain they find themselves in. They're sure-footed. And I just love the way Habakkuk encourages us as the people of God to rejoice in the Lord, even in the midst of what may feel like such uncertainty, to rejoice in the Lord, to take joy in the God of my salvation, that God's our strength. Our health isn't our strength. Our economy isn't our strength. Even meeting together isn't our strength. God the Lord is my strength. And when we put our trust in him, we know that our footing is secured, that we can trust in him. He is our firm foundation. So be encouraged, Hope Church. Keep running, keep going strong. We're proud of you. We're praying for you. Keep blessing the borough of Bromley and beyond, and see his kingdom advance to the ends of the earth. God bless you. We love you. Be in touch soon, hopefully. God bless.
Good morning, Hope Church. It's great to gather in this time. Even though we'll be scattered around, we are gathered to one King this morning. We're going to worship him. We're going to give him our hearts. Give all of our worship today. Let's sing, "Come Let Us Worship." Come let us worship our King. Come let us bow at his feet. He has done great things. See what our Savior has done. See how his love overcomes. He has done great things. He has done great things. Oh, hero of heaven, you conquered the grave. You freed every captive and break every chain, oh God. You have done great things. We dance in your freedom, awake and alive. Oh Jesus, our Savior, your name lifted high, oh God. You have done great things. You've been faithful through every storm. You'll be faithful forevermore. You have done great things. Thank you, Lord. And I know you will do it again. For your promise is yes and amen. You will do great things. Thank you, Lord. God, you do great things. Come on, let's sing it out. Oh, hero of heaven, you conquered the grave. You free every captive and break every chain, oh God. You have done great things. We dance, you're free, awake and alive. Oh Jesus, my Savior, your name lifted high, oh God. You have done great things. Hallelujah, God, above it all. Hallelujah, God, unshakable. Hallelujah, you have done great things. Hallelujah, God, above it all. Hallelujah, God, unshakable. Hallelujah, you have done great things. You've done great things. Oh, hero of heaven, you conquered the grave. You freed every captive and break every chain, oh God. You have done great things. We dance, you're free, awake and alive. Oh Jesus, our Savior, your name lifted high, oh God. You have done great done great things, Lord. Yeah, we worship you. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Yeah. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. You have done great things. You have done great things, Lord. You have done great things. Yes, you have. You have done great things, Lord.
Isn't it great to worship God together? What a joy to come into his presence. And what a God of provision he is. He's the God of all provision. In fact, the Bible tells us that he has given us everything we need for life and godliness. The Holy Spirit, according to Paul in Ephesians 1, is given to us as a deposit guaranteeing our inheritance. The Holy Spirit guarantees all the provision of God for us. Paul says a bit further on in that passage, I pray that the eyes of your heart might be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which you have been called, the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints of light. And again in chapter 3 says, I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being. The provision of God is available to us. It's ours in Christ. Pours it out in abundance. We have it. No wonder we want to worship and praise him for all the goodness that he bestows upon us, that he's dealt with our past, that he helps us in our present, and that we have a glorious inheritance coming in the future. What a wonderful God, and how amazing it is to be able to worship him together.
Father of kindness, you have poured out grace. You brought me out of darkness, you have filled me with peace. Giver of mercy, you're my help in times of needs. Lord, I can't help but sing. Faithful you are, faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are, all your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. Beautiful Savior, you have brought me in. You pulled me from the ashes, you have broken every curse. Blessed Redeemer, you have set this captive free. Lord, I can't help but sing. Faithful you are, faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are, all your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. Faithful, faithful you are, faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are, all your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. I will confidence is your faithfulness. I will rest on your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. I will rest on your promises. My confidence is your confidence. I will rest on your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. You are faithful. You are, yes, you are faithful. Forever you will be faithful. You are, yes, you are. All your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. Faithful in your promises. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are. You are my rock in times of trouble. You lift me up when I fall down. All through the storm, your love is the anchor. My hope is in you alone. You are my rock. You are my rock in times of trouble. You lift me up when I fall down. All through the storm, your love is the anchor. My hope is in you alone.
We thank God for the opportunity to be able to help needy people over the last 2 months. About 80 people in the previous month, and this last week 120 people, including migrant workers, supplying them with provisions that will carry them for an entire month and their families as well. Besides that, we've been able to give some people some financial help just to help with children's milk and medicines as well. Chaviraj Rajbar has this to say.
हाँ सर, मैं 11 परिवार है मेरे पास। मैं बहुत चिंतित था, मगर ट्रस्ट की तरफ से बहुत सा सम्मान मिला। हाँ, मेरा अभी चिंता दूर हो गया है, बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है।
Ram, another migrant worker with a family of 5, he says this.
मैं माइग्रेंट लेबर्स की तरफ से मैं उनका शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरे लिए 1 महीने का राशन पूरा करके व्यवस्था करके दिया। मैं उनका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करता भी हूँ कि ये ट्रस्ट हमेशा के लिए चले। मैं उनका शुक्रगुजार हूँ।
We want to thank all our donors in the church and outside as well for making this possible. We also want to thank our Regions Beyond family for enabling us to provide for about 800 people in UP for 3 entire months, and for enabling us to show God's love in very practical ways to a people who are so needy. We so appreciate you all.
Peter turned and saw that the disciple whom Jesus loved was following them. This was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, "Lord, who is going to betray you?" When Peter saw him, he asked, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus answered, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." Because of this, the rumour spread among the believers that this disciple would not die. But Jesus did not say that he would not die. He only said, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you?" This is the disciple who testifies to these things and who wrote them down. We know that his testimony is true. Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written.
Welcome. Just over 2 months ago, as a nation, we went into lockdown and we started meeting online. And as a church, we have been following John, a disciple of Jesus's, story of the last week of Jesus' life. We called this series The Roadway to the Cross and The Roadway from the Cross, through to the resurrection. And now we reach the end of John's letter, John's book, telling of his relationship with Jesus. And John ends it, as you've just heard, in a very autobiographical way. He's very keen to clear up a rumour. John never names himself in his book, but he refers to himself as the one whom Jesus loved, the one who rested on Jesus' chest over the Last Supper. And he gives us a clue that he is this man, and he says there's a rumour that he will never die. And John wants us to know that's not the case. But his main focus in these last verses is twofold. He's returning to a theme that he has touched so many times, that we must follow Jesus. And he uses that phrase to Peter. He recounts what Jesus said to Peter, "You must follow me." And he then says this, that the story of Jesus is so wide, is so enormous, is so encompassing in history, that even if all the books around the globe were written of him, it would not be enough pages for John to tell his story of the miraculous works of Jesus. The works of Jesus are recorded in the Bible. The second half of the Bible, the New Testament, is all about him and his impact on our lives. A few years ago, my wife Tina was on an Alpha course, and she was there with a friend. And on one of the weeks, she lent her a Bible. The following week, she came back and Tina said to her, "Did you read it? What did you think?" And she said, "Oh yeah, I've read the Bible." And Tina said, "Which bit did you read?" She said, "No, I've read all of the Bible." Now that's a lot of reading in 1 week. And then she said this to Tina. She said, "Is there a sequel?" There's only one Bible. There's only one revealed written word of God. But in that moment, Tina had an inspiration and she said, "Oh yeah, there is. There is," because she remembered a phrase that Paul had said to the Corinthian church. He said, "You are a letter. You're a letter written by everybody you meet." He worded it this way. He said, "You yourselves are our letter, written in our hearts, read and known by everyone." And that's true for every one of us today who's gathering here, is that we are a letter written to our nation and to our community of Jesus. And John wants us to understand this. And he retells just the last part of Peter's restoration, which Ken so well took us through last week, where Jesus said, "Do you love me?" 3 times. Twice he said, "I really like you, Jesus." And the last time, with all of the confidence he could muster, he said, "Jesus, I love you." And Jesus restores Peter and says, "Feed my sheep." What he means is care for everyone that's going to follow me. Make sure they know that I love them like I love you. And as this conversation ends, Peter turns round and he sees that John himself has been following them. That's how John knows this conversation happened. He heard it and he saw it. And Peter says, "Jesus, what about him?" By nature, I think we love comparing. We love comparing ourselves to other people, to other situations. I'm learning the etiquette of Zoom. I don't know if you have been using Zoom a lot, but that seems to be consuming my daytime life. I'm learning that you must never arrive late to a Zoom meeting. It's not good etiquette to eat while you're in a meeting, even though you might be sitting at home on a couch. You're in a meeting, don't eat. I'm also learning, don't look at yourself on the screen. It's so hard, isn't it? Fortunately today I'm looking to a camera, but often I'm looking at a screen and I'm seeing other faces in front of me and my own. And like a bee to a honeypot or a fly to a trap, I find myself drifting and then doing what you're not meant to do, which is adjusting. We compare. We look. I think there are 3 broad types of comparison that we find in life. The first is the comparison of the common. It's often the case like when you're at a new social occasion I remember last year being at a barbecue, meeting a whole load of people I didn't know. And you start conversations and you're ticking off topics till you find something in common. You're looking at interests or shared histories. These new relationships, you scroll down till you find something in common. And then when you do, you say, "Oh, you're just like me." And then you have that shared interest. For many of us, that's sport. It might be our children. For us English people, it can even be as benign as the weather and our thoughts on it. The comparison of the common. There's also another comparison, which is the competitive comparison. It's the one, and I don't know if you've ever met that person, who when you meet them, they're like, "Well, how tall are you?" And you can know they're a couple of inches taller. What's your golf handicapped? How fast can you run? Before I worked for the church, I was a chief exec of a young people's charity, and I remember vividly being at a meeting with lots of my peers, and the conversation starts before the meeting begins, and one colleague turns to me and says, "Oh, how are you? How are things?" "Oh, I'm so busy," says this other chief exec. And then the next one, guess what, was even busier. And this went round the table till it got to me, and I just thought, let's have a laugh here. And they said, Tony, how busy are you? I went, I don't know really. I said, I seem to have time on my hand. Maybe I just got a really good team round me. And like a reverse Mexican wave, it rippled back and people went, well, no, obviously I'm not that busy. Obviously I've got a very good team. The comparison of the competitive. What is Peter's voice when he says to Jesus, what about him? I think for Peter, it's the comparison of the catch. What I mean by that is he says to Jesus, what about him? I think in Peter's voice, he realizes that he's just been restored. But then John comes into view. John who's not failed. John who has been consistent. And in that moment, he realizes there's a catch. He's definitely going to be used more. There must be more for him. And Jesus looks Peter in the eye and he says, Peter, look at me. Don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Give me your full attention. Give me your gaze. Don't worry about John. And he takes it to the extreme and says this phrase, says, doesn't even matter. Even if he lives till I return, you look at me. What bother that gave John. Because Jesus was the one man who probably could honour that promise. But it wasn't a promise. Jesus is trying to make a point to Peter that don't compare yourself. Look at me. Gaze at me, Peter. Look at my eyes. What Jesus is saying is this. I have an individual call for you, Peter. He's saying to him that your call is not to be ranked against somebody else. It's not to be measured by John or James or whomever. And he's saying this, Peter, everything has changed. Since the resurrection, everything has changed. We're not returning to normal. We're not returning to the past. It's all changed. And you, Peter, are caught up in this. I believe Jesus would to say the same to you today, as he says to me. He looks us in the eye. He says, follow me. You must follow me. Give me your attention. Your call is unique. It's individual to you. I've given it to you. Your gifts and the impact you're going to make are not ranked against anyone else. You see, our worth is not found in our activity, but in our relationship and connection and identity to Jesus. And when he looked at Peter, he said, don't worry about him. Don't lose what you have just discovered, that your past is no longer going to hold you from being my minister now. Don't lose that. Look at me. How easily distracted Peter can be, and how easily distracted we can be. The desire to return to the old. And he says, everything has changed. I believe for us who are part of Hope Church, God would say everything has changed. In these weeks that we have been journeying and life has felt different, God has been changing our nation and the nations around us. That's why we keep returning to this sense that you are called to your community, but also to this borough, and then beyond that to the nations. Our society has changed. How our security and confidence is found has been like tectonic plates been shifting. And how our relationships, our need for community and one another has been reset. John's big theme and Jesus' word to Peter was, you must follow me. It's a repeat of the very first words Jesus said to Peter when he was fishing. Come and follow me. For many of us over the last few weeks, we've just started our journey with Jesus. We know that many of you have just recently started watching and looking in on church and discovering for yourself who Jesus is. You're telling us that on the chat, you're emailing us in, you're coming on Alpha courses with us. And every relationship with Jesus begins with this phrase, come and follow. But it doesn't stop there. Jesus says we must keep following him. And it's not a chastisement. It's not that Jesus is saying, Peter, you must follow me. He's saying, Peter, you must look at me. Don't worry. Trust me. Follow me. Don't let go of me. Very few of us love following someone else because it involves a surrender of control. And trusting in Jesus is about surrendering our control. There are promises that we're pushing into in this season as leaders of Hope Church where in the natural we think, how is this going to work when we don't meet together? A fear rises. Will the church just dissipate? How will this community know that the church of God is at work in it? And we receive promises that God said the church will grow and the church's profile will increase. In a few minutes' time, Amy and others will come and share with you some really exciting opportunities we have working with other churches in this borough through the JBB Food Partnership to serve our community. And as that has been happening week by week, it's thrilling our hearts because God has called Hope Church to have a large borough-wide vision. But he's called us to be servants. He's called us to surrender our ambitions and trust him. And as I'm recording this now, more churches and community groups are downstairs collecting food that they will be giving to their communities. A multiplication of ministry, a multiplication of ownership, a multiplication of emphasis. They're promises God gave us at the beginning of the year as we now work with other churches. A few weeks ago, we played the blessing as part of our service. The UK blessing was sung and it caught the nation's attention. Even our Prime Minister commented on it and commended the churches. We actually played the South African blessing. And if you go on YouTube today, you will see multiple versions of that in many tongues sung over many nations. But can I say to you, in this season and at this time, as much as I've enjoyed that song, there is a different anthem I've been carrying. It's a song written by the Bethel Church in America, and it's called God of Revival. And it speaks of Jesus' victory. It speaks that he has won, and in heaven is now reigning, and every fear has been broken. And it declares this, all things are possible. And we're seeing that, aren't we? All things are possible in this season. I think the reason I like it is the chorus is this, in the darkest night, you can light it up. God of revival, let hope arise. Death has already been won. You have already won over death. God of revival. I love that. Hope arise. I thought, yeah, Lord, let hope arise. Let me reread you the last verse of John's book. Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them was written down, I suppose even the whole world would not have room for the books for it to be written in. You are a living story. If you believe in Jesus, you're a living story. And I believe that out of this season, a revival will come. A revival that will transform our communities as the gospel is lived out by you and I. As we conclude this series, let us move forward with a confidence that Jesus says to you and to I, come follow. Everything has changed. All things are possible. I have won the victory. Amen.
Rose in victory, and now you're seated forever on the throne. So why should my heart fear what you've defeated? I will trust in you alone. 'Cause there's no prison wall you can break through. There's no broken body you can raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. God of revival, let hope arise. Death is overcome. You've already won. God of revival, the darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. God of revival, let hope arise. Death is overcome. You've already won. God of There's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can move. All things are possible. There's no broken body you can raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible.
Hello, my name is Amy and I'm part of the Hope Church congregation, in fact based at St Luke's in Bromley Borough. But right now I'd like to welcome you to the Food Hub, which is based in Hope Church, Orpington. And as you can see around you, what would normally be an area that on a Sunday morning is used by the children and throughout the week is used for all kinds of community events and fun stuff has been turned into what is basically storage for an awful lot of food. We're working here as part of the TBB, which is Transform Bromley Borough. Transform Bromley Borough is a group of churches from all denominations who are working together in order to support and to serve our community, Bromley. And this is just one project of many that TBB are involved in and are supporting. But here at the Hub in Orpington, as well as being TBB, we are also working alongside many other groups and individuals from Bromley, regardless of their faith. Because here our aim is to provide food to anyone who needs it, especially at this difficult time when so many are struggling in different ways because of the COVID-19. And we are growing so quickly. The news is spreading fast, and in fact, it's taking over. It's going much faster and growing much quicker than we were expecting. And in a sense, we're sort of chasing ourselves a little bit to keep up. It's very, very exciting. We're getting more people offering us food, and so we're having more deliveries arriving. Also, because more people are becoming aware of our service here, then they're getting in touch with us, and then we're being able to give food out to more areas in Bromley. And we've just had to invest. Just literally today, we've put in 2 new fridges on top of the upright that we already had. We've put in an additional freezer in, as well as the big chest freezer we already had, because we're needing more capacity. And our vision really is that here we are just the throughput. So people can come, they can collect, and then take the food back to their communities in Bromley and then hand it out there to those that need it most. And long term, well, who knows where we'll end up, but our vision is to share and to give food to anyone who needs it, regardless. And we know that there will be those in need across our borough, even after life gets back to some kind of a new normal, as we're calling it. So thanks for having a look. I hope you enjoy the clips and the videos that you're seeing. If you want to know more, please get in touch with Julian, and we'll have his details put up on the under my here somewhere, I should think, at some point. We just want to bless our community and bless Bromley. We have a video clip from Richard Mills in Orpington and Pete Harwood in West Wickham about food deliveries.
Hi, I'm Richard. I'm from the Orpington congregation, and I just want to share with you some of the things that happened when my wife Sarah and I distributed 150 meals last Friday and Saturday. It was really great. We spoke to a couple of people in a petrol station. One was a nurse, one was a carer, and they just couldn't believe that we were giving out free meals. They're absolutely amazed, couldn't believe it, wanted to know why we were doing it. It's a great opportunity to share about the things that Hope Church are doing and the things that God is doing through this corona thing. Another story I want to tell you is through another friend. We were given details of a lady who was very vulnerable. She'd phoned our friend up and said, "Where is God in the coronavirus?" A few hours later, we turned up on her doorstep with some free meals saying, "This is where God is. He's right here. He's giving you a gift. He wants to bless you." She was totally blown away. If you get the chance to do it, it is absolutely awesome. There's such an opportunity to speak to people, to share the gospel, to share the love of God. And if this happens again, try and beat me to be first in the queue. Have a great time, thanks.
When I heard there were 3,000 meals that were going to be delivered to us at Hope, I knew it was an all hands on deck moment. So I went over to Goodmead, and the guys were keen to give me as many meals as I could take. So I ended up with 220 meals in the back of my car. When I got back home, I set up a stall on my driveway so that neighbours and others from the congregation could come and collect. And it was amazing. Within a couple of hours, they were all gone. People from Hope West Wickham would come and deliver them to their neighbours, people who'd been burgled, people with newborn babies, vulnerable people, the elderly, and just people they wanted to bless. It was brilliant. Lots of my neighbours came and picked up meals as well. And what was brilliant was that my WhatsApp group that we set up for our street, one of the neighbours is a police officer, and she said, "If you've got any meals left over, I'd love to take some in for my colleagues at the station." And actually, all the meals went with lots of other people. So I went back to Goodmead and got some more, and was able to give her a box of 32 meals to take into Brixton Police Station the next day. And apparently they all went down really well. The police officers were really thrilled with them, they enjoyed them, and they were really touched and thankful at this gesture. I'm just going to say personally, I'm so thrilled that at Hope Church we are making such a difference in a practical way to those in our communities.
And we want to share not only good things for people's bodies, but good things for people's hearts, to share the love of Jesus. And that is what underpins everything we're doing here. We want people to know that they are loved by our loving Father God, and that by doing this small act, that we are showing some of his love in action. Thank you.
Hello, Hope Church. In this uncertain time, we are still serving and caring for our community. One of the main ways you can do this is by setting up a regular or one-off gift. And here's how. By going to our website, hopechurchuk.org/online donation and follow our online form. Alternatively, you can email david.dell@hopechurchuk.org for any other questions. Once again, that's hopechurchuk.org/online donation or email david.dell@hopechurchuk.org.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great time together.
Amen.
And I really hope it's been an encouragement and a blessing to you today.
Please take the time to look at our website, hopechurchuk.org. We would love to hear from you. And yeah, thank you for joining us. Have a blessed weekend.
Bye.
Hello, grace and peace to you. So we can't meet together in church buildings at the moment. But for some Christians around the world, the comfort of a church building is never an option. It might be too expensive, too conspicuous, or even burned to the ground because of persecution. Many Christians are permanently deprived of a building, but their faith in Jesus Christ remains strong, and we want to stand in solidarity with them. So today at 3 p.m, Release International is hosting a short Facebook Live event called All Out for God. We'll worship together, see video reports from some of our international partners, and hear a short message of encouragement. And then, maintaining social distancing, we'll ask you to take a few steps outside the confines of your home to pray for Christians who cannot meet in church buildings because of persecution. Please share this video as widely as you can, so that together with them, at 3 p.m. today, we can go all out for God.
Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. And again, Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high, on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high.